Yeah. Welcome to our Audit Committee meeting in April 2019. I would like to begin by asking if everyone has seen the minutes and if there are any comments. Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Did that come from John Johnson?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Beryl. Second from Beryl. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Mike, I guess it's time for our annual review. I thought we just did this of the charter.
So this would be the annual review of the Audit Committee charter.
What did we review
itself.
2 months ago? Was it the internal?
I believe that was we did the Finance Committee charter.
Internal audit charter.
Internal audit charter.
Okay. Charter.
All right.
And so, coincidentally, at the very last line of the current charter, it does say that one of the responsibilities of the committee is to conduct an annual review and assessment of the adequacy of the Audit Committee charter. So this has been reviewed by staff, and we do not have any recommended changes for you this year. So, subject to comments from the board, from the committee.
I have no comments this year. We've beaten this charter up pretty good in years past. Does anyone have comments on the charter? Hearing none, do we need a vote or anything?
I don't think so.
We don't have to recommend anything? Okay. All right.
Well, we'll note in the minutes that the charter was reviewed and there were no comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen, your report, please.
Thank you. So I am going to start with the internal control guidelines. They were distributed to the members. We updated those in April 2018, and although we are not required to review them annually because of some other changes that I'll discuss later, in conjunction with council, we felt it was appropriate to just mention that to the committee that we had reviewed them last year to incorporate the COSO 2013 update. And no changes are recommended at this time unless any of the members have questions or comments about the the guidelines as they stand. Right? Okay, thank you. So we'll just note that in the minutes and we'll be all set on those. The next item I'd like to talk about is the internal control program. The first item under that, I'd like to give a brief control self-assessment update. As you may recall, back in the early 2000s, we initiated the control self-assessment process. We started with 24 initial control self-assessments on various areas throughout DASNY. The process is an ongoing one where we update CSAs on a periodic basis. And some CSAs have been combined with others where they were small and it made sense to combine them, while others may have been split apart because an area might have been too large. We bit off a little more than we could chew the first time, and so we've split some up. So as we move forward, we continue to make those changes, whatever makes sense. Since the initial 24 were completed, 14 CSAs have been updated, including 4 in the past year, in the past 12 months. 2 are in for final review with executive management. 6 are currently in process at various stages of review and update. And 5 were deferred due to the One DASNY initiative and some other initiatives that we have ongoing. However, with the progress of One DASNY, we will be starting to move some of those control self-assessments for review in the near future. Does anyone have any questions on the control self-assessments? Okay. The next area of internal control is ongoing coordination with internal audit. I work with Kathy very closely to address internal control issues that come up throughout DASNY, often during the course of her audits or as the result of her audit reports. We identify areas where perhaps it makes sense for me to work with the functional units and update their internal controls or take a look at processes that maybe need to be a little bit tighter. I think it's a very strong partnership that I have with the internal audit function. I don't only work with Kathy. I work with all of her staff, whoever happens to be working on a particular audit. And I would say on a daily, practically a daily basis, I'm working with the internal audit. The next portion of the internal control program is our annual internal control training. We're required on an annual basis to provide training to all of our employees. We continue to rely on the required GORE training, the Governor's Office of Employee Relations. They put out a fairly comprehensive internal control program, and so our employees are asked to take that on an annual basis. In addition to that specific training, we have the Internal Control Steering Committee meetings. They are an integral part of our internal control program. It's where I get together with all of executive management to discuss our internal control programs, weaknesses that we've identified through internal audits or other means. In the last year, we held 4 meetings. We try to meet quarterly, if not bi-monthly, so depending on schedules, we try to get 4 or 5 of those in per year. Does anyone have any questions on the internal control program itself? Okay. Next, I'd like to discuss the internal control assessment process, and I'll start out by mentioning that in accordance with the Governmental Accountability Audit and Internal Control Act, we are required to have an internal control program. It is the responsibility of management, and my role is to assist management in the implementation of that program. And we are required to do annual reporting to the authority's budget office within 90 days of our fiscal year end. The authority's budget office has provided recommended guidance. That was last updated in 2011, so it's a bit dated. And in conjunction with that, our CSA process very much meets the requirements of the recommended guidance in coordination with the annual certification that I'll talk about next. On an annual basis, we post a statement on our website that indicates DASNY follows a process that assesses and documents the adequacy of our internal control structure and our policies. So the policies that we have on the intranet are also an integral part of our internal control program. With regard to our internal control certification, we continue to use the Division of the Budget form for our annual certification, as the authority's budget office has not specified a form to be used. The guidance this year for the Division of the Budget form was updated, but there was little change to the actual form itself. They updated the guidance to reflect COSO 2013, which we had actually done last year in our guidelines. So we've already moved forward with implementing COSO 13, and the Division of the Budget is catching up with us. The certification is signed annually by the president of the organization, and to support that certification by the president, we ask our management employees to sign a certification as well. The management certifications are tailored to each individual's responsibilities, and many of them would be the same, for example, in the construction division, where you've got our chiefs doing the same job, so theirs are very, very similar, if not identical, but someone in construction and someone in finances certifications would look very different because of their job responsibilities. Whereas overall, the president is responsible for everything throughout DASNY. Because we realize Gerard is only one person and can't be everywhere, seeing everything, we've asked management to sign those certifications to support him in his certification. This year, we anticipate 51 management certifications. That's how many management employees we had as of April 1st who had been here a minimum of 6 months in their management position. and that includes 11 first-time signers. So the way I track management certifications is I put together a chart by division. So the construction division is in the middle, and it has the largest number of employees. But I use this chart and I take this to my quarterly steering committee meetings and say, okay, this is where we are. This is how I manage who's required to sign. I also verify that list with human capital as of April 1st. I reached out to human capital and just verified that my list was accurate. Does anyone have any questions?
No. No. I thought I did.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Kathy?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be addressing the internal audit report that I think all of you should have a copy of. So if you could please turn to page 4 behind the first tab. The first page behind the first tab, I'll start with our standard document that shows our progress for the current year. We completed 21 out of the 28 areas on our plan. 4 are currently in process. 1 of the 4 is just about complete, as we recently had an exit meeting, so we just need to receive those management responses. So overall, we've addressed about 25 out of the 28 areas, and I do want to give kudos to my team for the great job they did in keeping the workflow so manageable and accomplishing what they did being down a person. Unfortunately, we do have 3 areas that we were not able to address. Those areas I will roll forward to our next year proposed plan. John?
Okay. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the financial history of a particular corporation and matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation?
So
I need
moved.
a motion. Thank you, Beryl.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? All in favor?
Paul is seconding.
Paul is seconding. Aye.
Yes.
Let's go into executive session. All right, so we're going back on. We are back in public session. Let the record reflect that we took no action in executive session other than to come out of executive session.
The record will reflect that the chairman of the board has appointed himself a member of the committee, so that we are now 3, and because we need a majority of the committee to adjourn the meeting. And having just appointed myself, I move adjournment.
John, do you second? We are adjourned.
You've appointed yourself.